Two and a Half Men. Okay. Here's what I was mentioning earlier about that little train wreck. And to those of you that know me and know what I feel about this show, yeah, I'm gonna say it again for everyone that doesn't know. But first, I'll get to that in a second. Let's start off with how I first saw this show. Okay. I just got introduced to The Big Bang Theory, and I was watching some shows on television and stuff like that, and this was in the summer of 2009, and my parents were watching this show with my Uncle Jimmy. I'll never forget this. My Uncle Jimmy is the one that turned us onto this show, okay, because he was watching it, and he said, "Have you ever seen this show, Two and a Half Men?" We're like, "No, we've never seen it." He said, "Check it out, it's really funny. It's this show with Charlie Sheen, and he lives with his brother. You gotta watch it." So my dad was watching it. I came downstairs one time. He had it on TV, and I started watching it. And I could not stop laughing. Okay, for those of you who don't know this show, all two of you who don't know this show, I'll let you know what it is. Charlie Sheen is a bachelor, and he's a drunken guy who likes to live at his beach house, have sex with any girl he meets, all that stuff. And his brother, played by John Cryer, Alan, just recently got divorced, and Alan's been living with Charlie. That's his name in the show, Charlie Harper. And so they live together, and he has a little 10-year-old kid, Angus T. Jones, who is Jake. And there's a lot of shenanigans that they get into, like Charlie, the way he acts, with women. It's not good for Jake. Jake's only 10 years old. He's a little kid. That's what it was like in the early seasons. The thing that this show had that a lot of people don't remember is, I know it's got all these sex jokes, it has a lot of sex jokes. I mean, this has more sex jokes than Seinfeld. This has sex puns, sex riddles, sex jokes, every wall-to-wall sex jokes, this show. But there's one thing the show used to have that it doesn't have anymore, and it didn't have it in the last couple of years, is heart. If you watch the pilot and the first couple episodes in the first season of Two and a Half Men, the show had a heart to it. It did. There would be, I remember this in this one episode where Jake is feeding all these seagulls, and all these seagulls come into Charlie's guest room and they won't leave. And Charlie doesn't want to talk to Jake anymore. And Jake's like Angus T. Jones is like a little kid here. He's like 9, 10 years old here. And Charlie doesn't want to talk to him anymore. And Alan says, don't treat him like that. Just he said he was sorry. Actually talk to him. And they have this scene where where Jake says, "I'm sorry I did that," and he said, "I forgive you, pal." And they have this, and then they go back to doing the sex jokes and everything, which is what made the show funny. But right around at the beginning of season 3 is when they tossed all that aside and they just did sex jokes. Now, bear in mind, it would have a heart from time to time, but it would start out like that, of them having a heart, and then, boom, they would just throw it all away for a cheap laugh, a cut-off laugh. They didn't do that in the first season, especially in season 2. It actually had a heart at the end of that, and then they threw it all away. And, I mean, bear in mind, the show was still funny after that, but it didn't have that anymore. And okay, alright, it didn't have that, but it was still funny. So, I started watching the show when season 7 premiered, and I laughed every week. Every week it was funny. I had to watch Two and a Half Men, and it was funny. And then season 8 comes along, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, it's still funny, it's still funny. And then, the elephant in the room, Charlie Sheen gets fired from the show after season 8. And they bring in Ashton Kutcher. And here's the thing. I got nothing against Ashton Kutcher. I'm not a fan of his. I really don't think he's all that funny on that 70s show. I'm not even that fan of that. I'm not even a big fan of that 70s show, to be honest with you. So I'm like, okay, they're going to bring in Ashton Kutcher. All right. I mean, this is Chuck Lorre. This is the guy that does The Big Bang Theory, Mike and Molly. I mean, he's a comedy writer. He's done Two and a Half Men all these years, which made me laugh. What could go wrong? People, everything that could possibly go wrong with a sitcom went wrong with that decision. And I'm not saying it's Ashton's fault. It's not his fault. It's the writer's fault. Now, I did a vlog about the entire 9th season a couple of years ago. I eventually took it down because it was getting a lot of negative reviews on it and stuff, which I don't know why. I was just really mad. Here's the thing. Take 2.5 Men. Take the sex jokes. Have them make no sense at all. And substitute the studio audience with a laugh track. Minus Charlie Sheen. And now, minus Angus T. Jones, because he's not even on the show anymore. That's what you have. Nothing. Nothing at all. And it blows my mind away that Jon Cryer got the Emmy for the 9th season of 2.5 Men. It blows... Dude, that was rigged. That makes no sense at all. Not one lick of sense. Not at all. Not at all. If anything, Neil Patrick Harris should have gotten it for playing Barney Stinson on How I Met Your Mother. Not Jon Cryer. Okay? Because this is why 2.5 Men was funny. Okay? Most of the humor out of this show came between Charlie and Alan, because they were brothers. It made sense for them to fight. Now that Charlie's gone, Alan is no longer a funny guy where you want humorous shenanigans to happen to. He's just an asshole. And you're kind of rooting for him to, like, go away. And you don't like Ashton Kutcher. I don't like his character. I don't think it's that interesting of a character to begin with. I watched the entire 9th season. There wasn't one funny episode. All I kept saying throughout every episode of the 9th season was, "Where's Charlie when you need him? Bring him back. Bring him back." And I stopped. I didn't watch season 10. I didn't watch season 11. And, dude, I did somersaults when I heard season 12 was going to be the last season. The last 4 seasons of this show are so bad that when my friends come up to me and tell me, "Hey, Andrew, what do you think of season 10 of 2.5 Men?" I'm like, this is my response. Season 10? Dude, 2.5 Men got canceled on February 14th, 2011 after 8 seasons. Season 10, that doesn't exist. That's my reaction. It doesn't exist. It's dead to me. The show got canceled on Valentine's Day 2011. That's the thing. Because I know that's kind of cynical to say that, but, like, this is Chuck Lorre. This is the guy that did The Big Bang Theory, and he does 2.5 Men. He's been doing 2.5 Men since the pilot in 2003. I don't know why he's writing these shitty jokes, and these writers are coming up with terrible, terrible lines, and it's not even funny. It's not even the show anymore. And the difference is this. See, the differences between this and Cheers, like, a lot of people will say 2.5 Men's not funny anymore because Charlie Sheen left. That's not the only reason. You can still pull off 2.5 Men without Charlie Sheen. I think you can. They're not. They gave up. Now they're just doing it for a paycheck. At this point, if you watch the show when Charlie Sheen was on it, it's nothing like it was. See, the difference between this show and Cheers is that after Shelley Long left the show, Cheers was still managed to be funny. It wasn't the same show as it used to be, but it was still funny. It had funny moments in it. There are no funny moments in 2.5 Men once Ashton joined the cast. There is not one funny moment at all. At all. And I am so happy it's finally coming to an end in next spring. I'm so happy that finally somebody woke up and they're canceling it. Because it's a waste of time and money to watch this. To watch that shit. I watched the entire 9th season, and the second it was over, I said, okay, if they come back for season 10, I'm not coming back. F this. I'm not coming back. There are 177 episodes from seasons 1 to 8 of 2.5 Men that are gold. Comedy gold. And it's a lot better than this. Because here's the thing. In season 7, in my opinion, was the last really good season. Season 8 was kind of eh. But season 8 was Emmy gold compared to season 9 onward right now of 2.5 Men. And you know what? It's hard to recommend a show that I don't support at the moment. But you know what? I just got to tell you right now. If you want to watch 2.5 Men, it's not on Netflix, but if you want to watch it, I recommend you watch the first 8 seasons and the first 8 seasons only. By the time you're done watching season 8, put it down. Because, let me tell you something, when I go into Best Buy and when I buy a television show on DVD, I see Two and a Half Men, and I see Season 9 and Season 10, and there are so many copies of Season 9, 10, and soon-to-be Season 11 that nobody's buying. All these are either half sold or already sold. Because, folks, this is the show. This is Two and a Half Men that I hold in my hand. This is the show. Okay? And it really is a shame that such great talent, not only from the actors, but from the writers as well, threw it all away. In my honest opinion, here's what they should have done. This is what they should have done. They should have waited for Charlie to clean up. He certainly did clean up after his melt forward, as he calls it. And they should have done Season 9 because they already were picked up to do a 9th season. And they should have done Season 9 and they should have ended it there. That's what they should have done, but no. That's not what they did. So, I recommend Two and a Half Men, but I recommended Seasons 1 to 8 only. It's a great TV show. Just not from 2011 till 2015. Next one. The Big Bang Theory. I'll never forget the first time I ever heard about this show. I was a sophomore in high school, okay? And it was halfway through the 2nd season of this show. And Till Death wasn't... This was during Till Death's 3rd season, where it wasn't really good. And my librarian, who was at my high school at the time, came up to me and he said, "Hey, Andrew, you ever seen this show called The Big Bang Theory?" And I'm like, no. And I told him, we would talk about our favorite shows. I'm like, "You ever watch Till Death?" And he said, "No, I don't watch that." I'm like, "It's not funny right now." And this was during a time when I was looking for a show to watch every night, because Till Death wasn't good anymore. And he said, "You should watch The Big Bang Theory. It's really funny. It's about these two nerds who live next door to this really hot girl." And I'm like, I think I've seen that before. That's like been done before. And he said, no, it hasn't. You have to watch it. And I said, okay, all right. So we're flipping through the TV, and eventually I see it and it comes on. And I'll never forget the first episode I ever saw. It was the one where they make Monty, the killer robot. That was the first episode I saw, the one where Penny hurts Howard's feelings. I saw that episode. From that point on, even till now, I became a fan of that show. And I watch it every night. I cannot wait until Season 8 starts. I can't believe we're in Season 8. I blinked and already we're in Season 8. I remember when we were in Season 2. It's insane. And yes, I have... let me get them, because I think I'll never be able to do this again on the show, because I'm talking about my TV shows. I have all 6 seasons of The Big Bang Theory on DVD. I do not have Season 7. I know Season 7 got released. I think I'm going to get it for Christmas or something. Or maybe I'll go out and buy it. I don't know. But I love this show. I watch it all the time. And Season 8, I can't wait to see Season 8. I saw the Season 7 finale. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with that. So, I strongly recommend you guys watch this show. A lot of people are split about it now. They're saying it's not as funny as it used to be. Like, a lot of people will say that the show stopped being funny once they got Bernadette and Amy Farrah Fowler into the show. A lot of people will say that. I'm not kidding. I've heard people say that before. Like, it wasn't the same. Like, a lot of people said the golden era of that show was like the first 3 seasons, when it was the 5 of them. When it was Leonard, Sheldon, Howard, Raj, and Penny. When it was the 5 of them, that was the golden age of the show. And you know what? Yeah, it kind of is. There are too many episodes to count which one is my favorite. They're all hilarious. Every time Jim Parsons is on, he cracks me up. Sheldon Cooper cracks me up. He is the Kramer of The Big Bang Theory. He is the Barney Stinson of The Big Bang Theory. That's what Jim Parsons is, as Sheldon Cooper. And he's gotten the Emmy so many times for that role. There's really no other role on television like that, like what he does. It's really incredible. If you guys haven't seen, I'd say go see it, but depending on how big of a hit this show has been over the last almost a decade, you guys probably have already seen it by now. Like, my grandmother doesn't really like a lot of TV shows these days, and she loves this show. She watches it all the time, The Big Bang Theory. We always talk about it every time I speak to her. So, yeah, Big Bang Theory, definitely recommend that one.